So dear people, the time has come. I have the spoilers for One Piece chapter 1141. In this chapter, Loki is finally freed. Yes, exactly what wasn't supposed to happen according to all theories has now happened. Additionally, something we see in this chapter could somehow bring Enel back into the whole story. I just read about it earlier, so stay tuned. We're diving into the new chapter. So first of all, guys, I'm ripping off the band-aid. No break next week. It's a good week, and next week will also be a good one. We're getting a chapter, we're getting spoilers again, we're getting another summary, and of course, the chapter itself on Sunday, just like this week. Wonderful. The chapter itself is titled Older Woman, and I found that so cryptic. I thought, what does that even have to do with the chapter? But actually, it's quite simple why it has that title. I still don't fully understand the meaning behind it, but we'll find out soon enough. The chapter, of course, starts with a cover page where we see Who's Who ordering his men to beat up page 1, which will obviously make Alti go berserk. So that subplot continues a bit. Anyway, now we're finally heading to Elbaf, the event that interests us the most. And there we first get no big holy knights. What's going on with their game now? Where has Skopper Gaban disappeared to? He's gone for now, and the Holy Knights don't seem to appear in this chapter either, which is actually fine because there are so many other things to show. That's why we have to understand Oda a little. He can't just show the Holy Knights in every chapter. So we see a Ripley where Frankie is shown a massive branch from the Great Adam Tree that was cut off. It's supposed to be truly gigantic because it caught fire due to a massive lightning strike. When I first heard this, I thought, oh, is that lightning from the Holy Knights? But that's nonsense. Their lightning didn't cause any real damage. The Holy Knights actually spawned on a branch in the last chapter, and this whole fire and lightning incident happened quite a while ago. I really wonder, was it just a storm? Because Vegapunk said the weather conditions in Elbaf were supposed to be perfect, but now we've been introduced to a Kirin Holy Knight who can probably control and throw lightning as well, and I can already see the Adam Tree engulfed in flames in this arc. I'm telling you, the Kingdom of Burka. It's not so far-fetched that it was located at the top of the Adam Tree, or at least that the entrance was there and it was destroyed by Enel. Maybe a stray lightning bolt hit below and started the fire? I know that sounds like a stretch, but I still wanted to mention it. Of course, not every lightning strike has to mean Enel. I'm aware of that. But honestly, Uruge and the whole Enel plot, especially with the last mural we saw and the one related to Enel, show that he still has a role to play. We are really nearing the final stretch of One Piece, and the idea that the top of the Adam Tree could be a direct path to the Sky Islands, it's not that far-fetched. And just imagine, we only got a small mention of a lightning strike here, but I'm telling you, the Enel alarm bells should be ringing. Now picture this, we get Shanks' twin brother Skopper Gaban and Enel in the same arc. Guys, if that happens, then we are truly witnessing history in the making, or rather, Oda is writing history. Next, we see Nami returning to the party in the Western Village. Everyone is drinking and celebrating, and we even get to see a drunk Usopp in this chapter. Very nice. That's something to look forward to. In a sneaky moment, Usopp casually asks Ja Rule, the incredibly old giant, over 400 years old, what kind of women he prefers. And Ja Rule replies that he likes older women, but considering he's the oldest living giant, what woman could possibly be older than him? It's such a strange comment and an unusual scene from Oda. We don't get moments like this often, and the fact that this even became the chapter title is kind of odd, but okay. Then we see Gerd, the blonde giantess, tending to the wounded guardian giants from the castle. They were injured by the two Holy Knights, specifically by Gunko and their arrows. Gerd is now treating them. Brogy is also there, and of course she immediately beats him up, because she suspects he had something to do with it. Meanwhile, Sanji, being the hopeless flirt that he is, isn't supporting Zoro and Luffy right now. Instead, he's following Gerd, the tall blonde giantess. The guy is such a smooth operator, really living up to the Skopper Gaban reputation, you could say. But now, we finally get to the truly exciting part, the big event we've all been waiting for. Luffy and Zoro are back in Elbaf's underworld, standing in front of Loki. They're debating whether or not to free him. Is this a good idea or not? And first of all, I have to ask, why isn't there any mention of his injuries? Hello? The guy had spider-like Cerberus heads stabbing him with swords. According to Shamrock, Shanks' twin brother, he shouldn't even be alive. So, shouldn't Luffy notice that Loki looks way more beat up than before? This has to be addressed. They also need to check if he's even alive. His condition must be catastrophic. He's probably on the verge of death. And honestly, I see only 1 or 2 ways he can be healed quickly, but more on that in a moment. First, we see a ship appears high above the underworld. Luffy and Zoro look up, and suddenly, several giants start falling from the ship. This immediately reminds me of Marineford, where something similar happened with Luffy and his allies. But this time, it's Hadruden and his crew. They all come crashing down from the ship, desperate to warn Luffy and Zoro not to free Loki, because if they do, it's basically a declaration of war against Elbaf. Just moments ago, they all shared the friendship of Sake, sealing their friendship, and now Luffy is making this move just to get some information about Shanks? That's ridiculous. Loki told Luffy, "Free me, and I'll give you info on Shanks." But let's be real, Shanks is going to show up sooner or later anyway. This deal doesn't even make sense, and as Hadruden and his crew fall, still screaming out their warnings, it's already too late. The keys are already in the locks. They've been turned. The chains have snapped open. Loki is free. I'm so hyped and so curious about this moment, but it probably won't feel like an epic "the beast has been unleashed" type of scene, because Loki is completely wrecked. He can barely even be alive after what he's been through. Plus, he was chained with Sea Stone, which means he couldn't use his devil fruit powers if he even has any. And honestly, the only way I see him surviving this is if he has a Zoan fruit. And let's face it, Zoan fruits are being handed out left and right lately. And if he does have a legendary devil fruit, it has to be a mythical zone in my opinion. Mythical zone powers are insane, and considering Loki's past battles, it's very possible he has already awakened his fruit, which means he could have an absolutely monstrous recovery ability, meaning his regeneration could finally kick in now that the Sea Stone is no longer touching his skin. He can finally use his healing abilities, recover, and come back to life. But that could also be total nonsense. It's just as likely that he'll collapse like a soaked rag, completely unconscious. If that happens, they'll need to treat him first. Chopper, Girth, and everyone else will have to rush in and tend to his wounds. But honestly, that also doesn't make much sense. The giants wouldn't help him. They would just chain him up again immediately. So for me, the only real possibility is that this situation gets resolved right here and now. Either Loki, despite his wounds, is still somehow combat ready and conscious, or he becomes a half-dead berserker still fighting in his broken state. That would be insane. But I almost can't see it happening, because remember, Shanks' twin brother Shamrock was the one who wanted to take him down. If Loki just gets back up like it's nothing, it would downplay Shamrock's strength, which doesn't really make sense. So what do you guys think? How is this going to escalate from here? Hadruden and his crew are there now, standing in front of Loki. I can easily imagine all of Elbaf turning against Luffy after this. What Luffy did was absolutely insane, and that's not even mentioning the Holy Knights, who are already causing chaos in Elbaf. This move from Luffy was reckless, even by his standards. We all know how he is, but this just seems too much. There has to be a way to smooth things over with Loki, or else he might actually go berserk and attack the entire island. If that happens, it would be a huge mistake on Luffy's part, one that can't just be waved away as, oh, Luffy being Luffy. And one more thing, I'm really curious about where Oda is going with this lightning strike. Why did he go out of his way to show it? For me, this might actually be a hint that the Holy Knight Gilligan, who supposedly has the Kirin Zoan fruit, is involved. Since the Kirin is a mythical creature associated with lightning and Gilligan seems to be able to control electricity, he might actually set the Atom Tree on fire. If that happens, we could be looking at a massive fire on Elbaf, and putting it out would require some serious power. Maybe Luffy or even Zunisha using its trunk, or Jinbei controlling the water. Who knows? One thing's for sure, this fire would be a catastrophe. The Atom Tree is gigantic, and if it starts burning, things will spiral out of control fast. Maybe this scene was just meant to show that the tree can burn, despite its legendary durability. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. So that was it for this video. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your opinion in the comments. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye. Love you all.